I will wait just a few minutes to get started. See if anyone else pops in. Happy Friday. Ah, fixing the lighting. Is that good? Maybe a little more. Cool. Yes, we are live. Okay, I'll tell people on Twitter. Hi. Hopefully everyone has had a good week. Oh my gosh, is that actually playing on? Hi, Mr. Old School. How are you doing? We'll get started. Hi, we'll get started in just a minute. Just seeing if anyone else pops in. Give people a few minutes to get in. Hey guys. Ow. Good. How's about you? I had a great week. A really good week. It's very. Hello from Flint, Michigan. Hi from Flint, Michigan. Good morning. Hi, Ken. Let's go, Brandon. It is a let's go, Brandon kind of day. The news just gets sillier and sillier as the day as time goes on. Earlier today, there was this tweet that was put out by Democrats on social media, and the tweet was about it was a chart talking about the jobs and how there were more jobs created under Biden than there were under any other recent president. And it's so funny, like this is how political messaging works. These jobs actually weren't created. You just had people's unemployment benefits that were ending. So all the people that were laid off at the very beginning of our health emergency, all of a sudden their unemployment benefits cut off and they couldn't reapply for unemployment. So they were just basically going back to work at the jobs that they were laid off from. At the beginning of all of this, or just forced to find another job. There weren't really jobs created. I thought that was pretty funny. And then some of the other messaging that you'll see is the gas prices. So the gas prices have gone down a little bit from just a month ago. And so what they're going to tell you for political messaging is that gas prices have actually decreased. That's not really true. They're still much higher than they were this time last year or the year before. But that's how they can kind of play with words. And it's like they take a lot from you and then they give just a little bit back and they're like, yay, look, it's progress, it's success. But they're just training your mind to get comfortable with things being really expensive or things just being different in general. Our inflation right now, I think it was my mom that was saying, so my mom is older, she's retired, so she collects her Social Security now. And I think they did give Social Security payments like a little bit of a bump, or they're talking about doing that. But at the same time, inflation is at a 39-year high. So really, are they giving you anything? But again, that's how they sort of mess with your mind and it makes you feel like you're getting something when you're really not. Anyway, okay, so, $1.77 under Trump and sitting at $3.29 right now. Yeah, I saw in some places around where I'm at right now in Virginia, I've seen the gas as low as just right under $3, but it's still higher than what it was for sure. Okay, so we'll talk about Jussie Smollett a little bit, and hopefully that's the last time we'll talk about him for a while, but I have a feeling not, because I'm curious to see what his sentencing is, and then I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this appeal, because he's already said he's going to be appealing this. So we'll talk about Jussie Smollett. Some text messages were uncovered from Lori Lightfoot during the George Floyd riots that I wanted to talk about for just a second. I'm really not surprised, but this just goes to show you that a lot of this could have been stopped before all of the burning and destruction, and it intentionally was not. So not good for Lori Lightfoot, really angering for the people of Chicago. I have some of the late night talk shows with our progressive friends, Kimmel, Fallon, Colbert, their ratings are not doing really well, and I think I know why. You probably know why too. And then for those that stick around, I have some information about this Christmas tree that was caught on, hi, hola, this Christmas tree, the Fox News Christmas tree that was set on fire, and how this is yet another example of people that just commit crimes and are just let right back out. And then I have some statements from George Gascon. He's our progressive DA in Los Angeles, and what he said about the murder of Jacqueline Avant. So she was the wife of this beloved music executive who is in the Music Hall of Fame, or who's in the Hall of Fame. So he had some statements about that, and he was criticized because a lot of people are blaming a lot of his progressive policies for the fact that this person was out. This was another career criminal who had a rap sheet that read like a novel, and many people are saying that because of the nature of his crimes and because of this 3 strikes thing that we have in California, that he should have been in jail. He should not have even been out of jail to be able to commit again. So I have that. But first, let's talk about Jussie Smollett. So he was found guilty on 5 out of his 6 disorderly conduct charges. So he could be facing, I believe it's 5 years for each charge. And a lot of people are saying, I listened to a lot of analysis about this, and people are saying he's not going to get that. A lot of people are thinking, originally I was thinking that he would just get put on probation. Now I'm thinking he actually might get, so some people are saying, and this sounds reasonable to me, we're waiting on sentencing obviously, that he'll probably maybe get a year in jail, maybe let out early for good behavior. And the reason for this is, now keep in mind, he doesn't have a prior criminal history, so that will come into play. But if you watched any of the trial or read any of the 30 days, or read anything that came out of the trial, the judge was getting pretty frustrated. So not only did he lie to detectives, did he lie about what happened to him, he clearly lied on the stand, and the judge had to stop and tell him to check his attitude, basically. So I think for that reason also, his attitude and the fact that he was lying on the stand could possibly go into his sentencing. So we're finding that out. And we also know that according to his lawyers, who in my opinion are sort of bottom feeder lawyers, that's just my opinion, Jussie is disappointed in the verdict, but he's 100% confident that he'll be able to appeal this successfully, pay the investigation in the court. Well, also, I didn't know this, but there is a civil lawsuit from the city of Chicago against Jussie Smollett for $130,000 for the resources that they had to use to investigate this fake crime against him. And what's pretty angering about all of this is just he just won't let it go. He is doubling down on this. He won't just be honest. And I guess, like, obviously that's annoying, but I guess I understand. You have to understand, he ruined his entire career. No one in Hollywood is going to touch him with a 10-foot pole. No one's going to hire him again. He ruined everything. He has nothing to lose at this point, so he's just going down in flames. And he keeps making it worse for himself, but I honestly don't know how it could be any worse than it already is. One of the, I think he was the police superintendent, but I was listening to an interview with him today, and he's one of the police officers that was working on this Jussie thing really early on, and he said, you know, right away, we had a lot of red flags. We had our suspicions. And he said, you know, I didn't let that deter from the fact that I always treated him like a victim, obviously, until we had exact evidence that he is lying. And he said, you know, the red flags at first were the fact that when this happened, you know, Jussie is going out getting a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. in the morning on the coldest night. There was a polar vortex in Chicago when he left to go get his sandwich. Also, when he came back after he was supposedly attacked, he still had the sandwich unscathed in his hand. Sam, I know a sandwich does sound good right now, doesn't it? He still had the sandwich in his hand. He still had the noose around his neck. So there were just so many red flags. just right off the bat. So they were suspicious right off the bat. And then after that, the evidence kept piling up that this was clearly a lie. And he said, you know, I'm offended because this is Chicago. This is putting a stain on Chicago when we have tried really hard to work to make this city a good place. He had to hang on to all his props. Yeah, exactly. And he said, you know, I would probably feel differently if Jussie just would have said, you know what, I made it up. I'm sorry. I apologize. But someone as egotistical as Jussie Smollett is not going to fake news just like CNN. Someone like Jussie is not just going to come out and apologize. He's clearly an egomaniac. And like I said, it's really sad because he was making I think he was making about $100,000 an episode on Empire. It was a successful show. He had a modicum of fame. He was clearly very well connected. There's pictures of him with the Obamas. You know, Kamala reached out about him. Clearly somebody that was well connected, probably had a really bright future ahead of him, but it wasn't enough. He needed more. His greed came back and it bit him in the butt. And now, like I said, no one in Hollywood is going to touch him at all. It doesn't matter how liberal they are. They're not going to touch him. And even Don Lemon, whatever. Even Don Lemon came out and called Jussie a liar. Now remember, they were friends and they were texting a lot during this whole situation. Don Lemon came on his show and said, you know, before everyone knew, hi Northeast Ohio, before everyone knew for sure that this was a hoax, Don Lemon was like, I've been texting him every day to see if he's okay. Lemonhead, Don Lemon Party. So we do know that they were friends, but what we found out during the trial when Jussie was on the stand is that, when Jussie was on the stand is that Don Lemon actually texted him and tipped him off that police were starting to be suspicious that he in fact made up this crime, which is a huge conflict of interest, especially given that Don Lemon is responsible for reporting on this every night. This was a huge story at the time. I don't think it's as bad as Chris Cuomo, but it's still pretty bad. But anyway, I will give credit where credit's due. Don Lemon, although he never acknowledged the text message, he did say that his friend lied. So he did admit on his show last night that his friend lied. Lemon discussed the Empire Star's guilty verdict on his show Thursday night during a brief segment with legal analyst Joey Jackson. The CNN host said that Smollett had to make up too many lies in an attempt to explain his false narrative. I guess he got caught up in that because he took a stand himself. He got angry with the prosecutor as the prosecutor poked holes in his stories, calling the only other witnesses liars. So remember how I told you the judge was stopping him and telling him basically to drop his attitude, because he was getting an attitude with the prosecutor when they were questioning him, because clearly he was lying, and like Don Lemon said, they were poking holes in his story. So it's cool that I think Tim Pool says this a lot. I do not like real women wear camo. It's a very comfortable shirt. I do not like Don Lemon at all. I criticize him often on this channel, but even Tim Pool says a broken clock is still right twice a day, and so I'm glad he called him out and said, yeah, this is my friend, and he lied. So, cool. Somebody that's not calling, I'm back. At least this time it let me resume. Okay, sorry it went out. I am back now. No, I don't know. It just kicked me out for a second, but I'm here. But somebody that is not calling him out are Black Lives Matter, the LA chapter. So they basically said that no matter what the verdict is, they stand behind Jussie Smollett. So they don't care what the verdict is. They don't care what the truth is. But this is Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Because they said you can never believe police. And to me, yes, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. At least it let me pop back into this live. So this, if you didn't believe that they wanted to abolish everything, if you didn't believe that they clearly do not care about the truth, if you didn't believe that they clearly do not have an agenda that has nothing to do with justice, it has to do with their ideals and wanting an abolitionist society, then here is further proof of that. And this is Melina Abdullah, and she's the director and co-founder of BLM Los Angeles. I've watched interviews with her before. I do not like her. I don't think she's a very honest person. And that's just my opinion. I don't think she has a whole lot of integrity. I think she puts her ideals before what's right and wrong. And she says it right here. She says, in an abolitionist society, the trial would not be taking place. See, they want to abolish everything. And she doesn't talk about all of the crime that's in some of the areas in Los Angeles. Abdullah wrote in a statement that alongside a commitment to abolition, we can never believe the police, especially the Chicago Police Department, over Jussie Smollett. So see, they don't care. They said no matter what, we can never believe the police, especially the Chicago PD. We believe Smollett. A commitment to abolition. So it doesn't matter how obvious it is that he is lying, that this is clearly made up. They do not care, and they're still going to support him. Speaking of Chicago, so there you have it. Will Jussie Smollett win the appeal? I doubt it. There's overwhelming evidence against him. And, you know, that's his right to appeal. You have the right to appeal things, and that is his right. And he just continues to drag this out even more. Abolitionist, abolish thyself. Yeah, they don't want police. Which is odd because they want justice for certain people but not other. It's very odd. That's the Marxist way, yes. And that's why I do not support BLM, the organization, is because they have admitted that they are a Marxist organization. They have clear political agenda, and they have never helped anyone that they say that they speak for. I don't know what they've done. If somebody can tell me one positive thing that they have done, please tell me. Because it seems like, and here, I'm going to tell you right here, actually, I just read something. I was reading about Jacqueline Avant in Beverly Hills, and even the residents of Beverly Hills, a lot of these Hollywood liberals, because that's a lot of people that live in Beverly Hills, they will tell you right up that the crime started getting really bad at the George Floyd riots. One person had a Molotov cocktail thrown in their backyard during the riots. And that is right when you saw, and I can speak from my personal experience, that's right when you saw the increase in crime in Los Angeles. And if I had to guess why, it would be because there was mass looting that night and people realized how easy it was to do it. So it just emboldened a lot of criminals. And that was Beverly Hills. Even right across, the pond in the Melrose area, which is another area that's gotten really dangerous, even the residents there will tell you all of this increased crime started around the George Floyd riots. And I think that is why. Because they just got emboldened after that night. Like, oh, this is easy. Why don't I do this more often? And, there was another thing. Now, a lot with Jussie Smollett and perjury. He clearly lied on the stand. I don't know if they'll go after him over perjury, although you could. I actually worked on a case. Right when I turned 18, I got picked for jury duty. And my case was actually a perjury case. So there was a previous trial before mine where the person who I now know, I didn't know at the time, was found guilty of a crime, okay? And while he was on the stand, he lied on the stand, and the judge at the time, because of the nature of the crime, wanted to throw the book at him. And I love my camo. They know safety is in numbers. The judge wanted to throw the book at him. So not only was the person found guilty of the crime, in the first trial, they also got him for perjury. So he had a complete separate trial. And what I had to do and the rest of the jury was determine whether or not he lied on the stand. And we actually found him guilty of perjury. So he was found guilty of the crime in question, and then he was found guilty of lying on the stand and got even more time in jail because of that. I don't know if they'll do that in this case. I have no idea. But another thing that Jussie's lawyer is trying to say, and this is where they're conflating things and trying to confuse people, because Jussie was Bill Clinton the defendant. No, he wasn't. Sounds like Fauci. What Jussie Smollett's attorney is trying to say is the fact that he was found guilty on 5 but not 6 of all the charges. So the charge that he wasn't found guilty on was lying to detectives, I think weeks after. So he's saying, okay, well, this is really confusing because you're saying he lied, but then he didn't lie. So this is a big conflict, but I really don't think that's it. There's a lot that goes into finding a guilty verdict, and I'm sure there's other reasons for this. You also have to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So even if you think someone's guilty, if there's a reasonable doubt, then you wouldn't give a guilty charge. But speaking of Chicago, they really need to make an example of the Juice. Wow, another criminal with a Juice nickname. Oh yeah, that's true, huh? That was actually I don't know if you watched, but there was a series all about the O.J. Simpson trial, and I was too young. Oh, thank you, whoever just sent that in. I'll see it. I think I'll see it in just a minute. Frank, please, God bless Sarah and her viewers. Keep them safe. Thank you so much, Frank. That's really sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. OJ, yeah, the O.J. Simpson trial. There was a series that came out all about the trial, and I was pretty young when this happened. I remember on TV seeing the famous white Bronco going down the road, but I was just too young to understand the nuance of the case, and things were very racially charged back then, and a few of the jurors actually admitted way after the fact that they actually thought he was guilty, but they gave a no guilty verdict because of a lot of the racial tension that was happening at the time. So I think that was right around the time of Rodney King. Let me know if I'm correct. So I think that's what was happening around the time. And I remember watching the Bronco chase, LOL. Yes, I do too. But that's basically all I remember. Rodney King, yeah, I was too young to, like I said, understand all the nuance that was going on in that case. But speaking of the riots, this is pretty interesting. I'm not surprised, but to actually see it in writing is one thing. So the Chicago Tribune in Chicago has been trying to get text messages from Lori Lightfoot for about 2 years now, and it says right here, and they finally did obtain some of these, and it says right here, the Tribune obtained more than 2.5 years of Lightfoot's text messages with aldermen through a series of Freedom of Act requests, which her staff failed to comply with until the state attorney general abolished them, and the Tribune threatened a lawsuit. So the Freedom of Information Act, I'm sure you all know what that is, that basically says that if you're a government official or someone in that capacity, you have to be very transparent with a lot of your interactions and things like that to keep the public in the know and to basically keep them accountable. Yes, Beetlejuice. So they've been trying to get these for 2 years now, and her staff has been trying to not, clearly, because if you've seen her emails, Lori Lightfoot is very unhinged. Lance says Lightfoot is my fashion muse. Wow. That's fancy. So it says here, the Tribune stated that on May 31st, 2020, those are the big George Floyd riots. Say it 3 times. Ah! Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. No! She's gonna haunt my dreams. Nightmares. That's a great movie, by the way, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice fashion. The Tribune stated that on May 31st, 2020, Alderman Pat Dowell complained that, listen to this, complained that police weren't doing a damn thing. In fact, they were letting these folks loot in her ward. She goes on to say the police have to engage these lawless efforts. Alderman Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez informed Lightfoot that there were people downtown that were not looting, asking Lightfoot if the Chicago Transit Authority could start again so they could leave. Lightfoot responded that these people could go west and catch the blue line or go to the brown line north. The Tribune continued. After Rodriguez said she was getting messages from scared young black people who don't know where to go, Lightfoot responded, "Go west and then north, Rosanna. The city is up for grabs." I mean, I'm not surprised. Brian Stelter interviewing Lightfoot would be a troll fest. I would love to see that. Potato and Beetlejuice interviewing. But that is just one more example of how they were aware of what was going on. And you see in the text message that the police aren't doing anything because the police were told to stand down. Like, at what point is this a dereliction of duty for just, and she just says, the city is up for grabs. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to let the people loot, let them do whatever, and then let people that were trapped, because I believe they shut everything down around. So what this alderman was saying is that there were people that were trapped and couldn't get out, and they were scared. Imagine, I saw the riots firsthand. They were scary. Brian Alka-Stelter. So Lori basically has a history of downplaying all of the violence in her city. In July 2020, Lightfoot explained that the gun violence terrorizing the city was primarily due to the lax gun laws and virus-related lockdowns. As the Washington Examiner reported, when she was asked about the spike in violence in the city, Lightfoot declared, "That's a complicated question. We have way too many guns on the street." So they'll always put the blame at somebody else. Lightfoot also suggested that the shutdowns that kept people inside for months played a role in creating a perfect storm, while also pointing out that the death of George Floyd was an event that sparked anger in the community. So this is exactly what one of my city council members did. They were basically excusing all of the destruction and the rioting and looting by saying people are upset about this death. And keep in mind, this happened... This happened in Minneapolis. This did not happen in Chicago. This is not where all of that happened, yet she is letting Chicago burn because of something that happened in Minneapolis. Again, like, where is there a dereliction of duty? And her job is to her constituents and to keep her streets safe. But clearly her ideology, and this is the problem with a lot of people, their ideology takes precedent over the citizens in their area. It's the same with people like George Gascon. Yeah, and the homicides in Chicago, the shootings have just been atrocious every single week. Don't live anywhere you can't exercise your 2A. Chicago is an illegal gun problem, not a legal gun problem. Exactly. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it was the mayor of, and he actually did a really good job. It was the mayor of Kansas City. So when a 4-year-old little boy named Legend, he was asleep in his bed, and this was the summer of 2020. You know, everyone wanted to go with their fake narrative that Breonna Taylor was asleep in her bed when we know she wasn't. But what they didn't talk about was little Legend, who was 4 years old, who actually was asleep in his bed when he was shot and killed by a stray bullet in his neighborhood. So the mayor of Kansas City, this is where it happened, reached out to the DOJ, and he said, hey, we have a problem with illegal guns, we have a problem with gang activity, and we just had this instance happen. Can you help me? That's how you have leadership. That's how you run a city. So he reached out to the DOJ, he said, I need help. And the DOJ did. They had Operation Legend, and Chicago is actually one of the cities that they went to. But under Operation Legend, they got hundreds and hundreds of illegal guns off the streets. Chicago is one of the places they went to. They also arrested Legend's killer and arrested a lot of other bad guys who were out there just shooting things up, and kids are getting in the crosshairs of a lot of these situations. But Operation Legend happened all summer in 2020, yet nobody talked about it. And Chicago was one of those cities. I think in one weekend in Chicago, they got hundreds of illegal guns off the street. There is a North Korean girl that escaped and is now speaking out against woke tyranny. Yeah, it sounds like a cult, especially when you hear the mayor of a city excusing the looting and violence in her own city because people are upset about something that happened in a different state, in a different city. Yemeni Park, that's how you say her name, right? Yeah, I've seen her on a few different interviews. Lance said DOJ needs to have continuing operations like that. They really should, all the time. Be safe, Sarah. Your own city just announced they cannot protect citizens. Oh, yeah. I'm not in Los Angeles right now, so don't worry. Yeah, Los Angeles. Who is he, by the way? Hold on. Do not visit Los Angeles. He's not former police chief. Who was he? Fox News. Yeah, LAPD detective says the city is not safe for tourists. So basically, yeah, this guy is going on the news and saying this LAPD detective is telling people that, hi Glenn, is telling people that it is not safe to visit Los Angeles at this time. And here we go. I can go into George Gascon now. I was in LA for 2 days and my truck was broken into. Are you serious? When, Mr. Old School, when was that? LA is terrible. The San Andrea Faults need to step up its game. When were you in LA? I'm curious. Okay, so I'll read you a little bit about the alleged killer of Jacqueline Avant. So this is what recently happened in Beverly Hills, since we're speaking of Los Angeles and the crime that's gotten really out of hand in LA. And a lot of the crime that's happening in LA are just random robberies. So if, you know, John Carpenter's escape from LA, that was November 30th. Okay. So that was recently. Yeah, a lot of car break-ins there. As a truck driver, I will travel to California. I will never travel to California. I refuse to go there. Escape from LA. I don't actually know if I've seen that movie. But now I want to watch it. Now I'm very interested in it. But this is why. So 2 weeks ago, LASD gangs. Here, let's Google that together. We'll Google LASD gangs. I think LA is the gang capital of the world. Hold on. Yeah, okay, so the fun fact, I thought it was the gang capital of the world. No, that can't be true. So Los Angeles has the nickname the gang capital of the U.S. And it got that nickname and it's had it since 1930 because approximately 120,000 gang members reside in the city and tens of thousands more in surrounding Los Angeles County. Yeah, so why is Los Angeles the 38th Street? Yeah, so what's important to know is when they defunded our police back in 2020, usually the first things that go on are special units. So keep in mind, Los Angeles, the gang capital of the United States, that was one of the first departments to be cut, and then the special victims unit was also cut, which handles trafficking, it handles child crimes and stuff like that. So when they defunded our police, they defunded those two things sort of right off the bat. They took $150 million from the Los Angeles Police Department. And then, so I'll read you what, and a part of the problem now, I've said this before, but you have a lot of things happening in LA at once. Well, first in California in general, you had Gavin Newsom, who emptied out a lot of our prisons. So he let out somewhere between 65,000 and 76,000 inmates out of prison because of our health crisis, and he didn't want overcrowding and outbreaks to happen in the prisons. So that happened. You had decriminalizing theft that happened a few years before that. So this was a long time coming. You also had the defund the police, $150 million from the police department. And then you have George Gascon coming in, and he is our prosecutor. So I'm going to read you what he says, and he's basically takes the side of the criminals. And here's just one more example of that. So the alleged killer of Jacqueline Avant, the wife of music executive, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee Clarence Avant, was failed by a tough on crime approach that focuses only on incarceration and not the root causes of crime, Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon says. So he says the reason that Jacqueline Avant was killed was because her killer was failed. He was failed in the criminal justice system because they're not going to the root causes of why he commits crime. So Ariel Maynor, he's the guy that they caught, faces murder, attempted murder, and burglary charges, along with being a felon in possession of a gun connection with the December 1st alleged killing in Avant's Beverly Hills home and botched burglary at a second home where police say he accidentally shot himself in the foot. Seems like a really smart guy. Court records show that Maynor was on parole at the time of the killing and has an extensive criminal history. He pleaded guilty to a robbery charge in 2013 and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He pleaded no contest to domestic violence incident in July 2013 and was convicted of grand theft in 2010. And California has a unique 3 strikes law. So if you commit the same crime and it's serious enough 2 times in a row, you get a longer prison sentence. So he should have had a longer prison sentence. He released on parole in July 2018, but was sentenced in November of that year to 4 years in prison for robbery with enhancements for being a prior convicted felon. He was released on September 1st. And this is what Gascon had to say. As far as we can see, he never received any meaningful intervention that may have helped him set his life on a different path, one that would have prevented the terrible tragedy from occurring. He says, I'm angry at this system that allows a disturbed young man with a proven track record of violent behavior to be cycled in and out of prison with little or no meaning intervention to be able to gain access to an AR-15 military-style weapon and kill Jacqueline Avant. So he spent more time talking about the person who killed Jacqueline Avant and how we should sympathize with him than he did talking about Jacqueline Avant, who was somebody who is a philanthropist. You might not agree with her politics, but she spent a lot of time and a lot of money trying to do good. She volunteered. She donated to political figures that she believed in. This is someone that was a stand-up citizen, and her husband was beloved. And he spent more time talking about the criminal than talking about her. And this is the problem. And the problem, too, if he is in prison, usually, I used to work in psychiatric hospitals, and usually police would bring us a lot of our patients because when someone was in jail or when they were picked up for a crime, they were able to identify mental illness or addiction problems or whatever else it was. But when you arrest someone and you just let them back out on the street, how is anyone going to identify these people are being let out sometimes before the paperwork is even finished? And he lets everyone out on zero bail, so no one's in these facilities to even identify any of these problems. And I feel like when the system works, it works really well together. Somebody says, Gascon says his policies are based off proven methods. Please show me where these cities where these policies have been in effect and let me see some of the crime statistics. Okay, that's another thing. So if you listen to a lot of these really progressive DAs, they'll keep talking about studies, but they never actually cite their studies ever because there is none. But again, you have, this is also what they do. I've seen Chesa Boudin do this in San Francisco. This is what happened in Waukesha. They will not take the blame. They will put the blame on something else to basically divert your attention to something else. Disagree with the penalty. If it is wrong for people to kill people, it is wrong for the state to kill people. Oh, the death penalty. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I don't always know how I feel about that because I feel like that's hard. The high crime doesn't support his policies exactly. Death penalty, that's a hard one. See, on the opposite though, I'm like, in my opinion, that's like an escape. They're almost let off easily. Too many people have been wrongly convicted. Killing an innocent man is horrible. Sarah, did you see the news about the federal prosecutor I didn't get the rest of that. And here, okay, so here in New York, you have parole can kill more innocent people than the death penalty. I think, yeah. Okay, thank you. Good. Glenn's comment, Sarah, did you see the news about the federal prosecutor approved yesterday to the U.S. Senate? Oh, is that, oh, nice. No, I didn't. Hold on, let's look that up. And this is the problem. So, you know, however you feel about the criminal justice system, one of the biggest problems is you have two things. You have the public defender, and then you have the prosecutor. The public defender is there for the criminal. That's who's on the criminal's side, the public defender. The prosecutor is supposed to be there for the victims. But when you have the prosecutor that is more concerned about the criminal than the victims, then who is there for the victim? And that's a really big issue. And what Gascon did in his office is he has a lot of people in really high positions that are former public defenders. They have no experience being prosecutors. So basically the victims feel abandoned, and that's one of the biggest things. And everyone believes in criminal justice reform and always looking at things and trying to make things better. And that's how a lot of these people get elected. It's almost deceitful because you see reform, that's a really good word. Reform is an awesome word. Who doesn't want reform? Hi, Kent. Gascon represents the criminal lobby. Yeah. Who doesn't want reform? Of course we all want reform. So that's what they run on. But really, it's not reform. They're dismantling. Hold on. Let's look at this federal prosecutor. Oh, okay. Oh, I saw her. U.S. Senate narrowly confirms Biden's progressive pick. I saw a video of her. So, I don't know. I did see a video. Did you hear about Dr. Oz running for senator or governor of Pennsylvania? Yeah, he's a rhino to me. I think he's kind of a hack. He goes back and forth. I think he likes fame more than anything. And he's really good friends with Oprah. I don't like that. I don't trust Oprah at all. U.S. Senate narrowly confirms Biden's progressive pick for Massachusetts prosecutor. She is a part of the movement of progressive prosecutors that supports eliminating racial disparities in the justice system and rejects a traditional tough on crime culture that they say has led to disproportionate incarceration of Black men. Okay, that's an interesting point. So this is another thing they'll use. They'll say that Black men are incarcerated at a disproportionate rate, and they are. But they also commit a disproportionate amount of crime, but more importantly, they are 7 times more likely to be the victim of homicide than a white man. So not only is crime committed more and they're disproportionately incarcerated, but they are also disproportionately the victims of violent crime, and that's the issue. We keep talking about the criminals and trying not to over incarcerate, but when you do that, you are further victimizing other people. And again, it's where you have they're focused on the criminal and not the victim. They're not focused on crime prevention. They're focused on emptying out jails. And that's why you see increased crime in all of these areas where you have these progressive DAs. It's very backwards. She campaigned on a promise to decline prosecution for some low-level crimes and was vocal about the need for police reform even before the nationwide protest prompted in May 2020. See, reform. What they mean is dismantling, not reform. They want to dismantle. Aha, there's that word again, equity. Rollins said in a statement her policies helped improve trust in law enforcement and the fairness and equity of the criminal legal system. She said she looked forward to bringing those data-driven, evidence-based approaches. But what are they? What are those evidence? What are those studies? What is the evidence here? They won't tell you. They'll just tell you it's data. We're forward thinking. We're reimagining. We're reforming. Equity. Equity means equality of outcome. Equity means, look, we're incarcerating at a lower level. It doesn't mean, look, we're decreasing crime. Someone said it's easy to rely on studies that you have commissioned. Also, something to be aware of, a lot of these cities, like I know San Francisco, for instance, and even Los Angeles, sometimes people stop reporting crime because it's so rampant and it doesn't do any good. So, speaking of crime, I just had to bring this up because this is, I don't know if you all remember, just a few days ago, the Christmas tree outside of the Fox News headquarters in New York City was burned down. Or it wasn't burned down, it was on fire. I don't think the whole thing burned down. But somebody set the Christmas tree on fire. Well, they put the equity, Marxist, yeah, equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. So in the criminal justice system, what that looks like are lower incarceration rates, but you're not lowering crime. So they actually, they put the tree back up pretty quickly, and the person, it was a 49-year-old man. I'm not going to say his name because his father actually came out and said the reason he's doing this is because he wants attention. So this guy, he clearly has some mental issues, set the tree on fire in front of Fox News. I don't think it was a hate crime. I know like Tucker Carlson was trying to conflate all the I don't think it was a hate crime. I think this guy was trying to get attention. But he was arrested. They found him, and less than 24 hours later, he was released again. And now that we know who it is, he also, was it a week before? Yeah, last week, he also exposed, he was outside of the courtroom of Ghislaine Maxwell and exposed himself to a bunch of reporters. And this is what I'm talking, this person clearly has mental health issues. If within 2 weeks you have those 2 crimes, and this is sort of my problem with the criminal justice system right now is this person is clearly not mentally well. And why wasn't he referred to an institution or something where they could evaluate? I used to work at a psychiatric hospital, and we would get people that committed odd crimes like these, and they would bring them to us. They would evaluate them while they were booking them and realize, okay, this person is not mentally well. We're going to take them to you to get further evaluated. Or at least instead of keeping him in prison, he'll go stay. I don't know. But this to me just doesn't seem like someone that should have just been let right out on the street. Again, there's clearly something wrong. If he exposed himself just last week and then torched a Christmas tree, this was a big Christmas tree too. Like this could have caused some serious damage. It didn't, thankfully. Was Bernie a patient? No. You do know that Bernie Sanders was a part of a hippie commune, and they kicked him out because he wasn't doing his chores. So a part of this commune was, you know, you had to pay your dues, and like you had to do chores and do your part in the house to be a part of the community. And Bernie Sanders, they said he would just sit around and talk about politics all the time, and he wasn't really doing his part. So he got kicked out of a hippie commune in Vermont. Just so you know. A commie not pulling his weight, color me shocked. Yeah, he also has never really had a real job. Like, I've said this before, like, I don't trust someone that's never been poor, and I don't trust someone that's never once in their life had a blue-collar job. You know, whether you were like a server through college or you worked part-time at like a gas station or some kind of job like that. I don't trust people that have never had a blue-collar job and that have never been poor. Was that real life or from the Bernie Sanders movie? It was in the Bernie Sanders movie, but it's also from real life. He, for sure, you can look it up, he for sure was kicked out of a hippie commune. Okay, speaking of clowns, I just thought this was really funny. I'm going to get off here in just a minute. He didn't work for CNN, did he? I don't think so. But I mean, come on. Those two crimes in a span of 2 weeks, something is wrong with this person. They need to be at least evaluated or something. And that's the problem too. That's also the problem with George Gascon's logic, is these people are being released, but they're not really getting any sort of services. So how are you supposed to rehabilitate? Has Don Lemon been fired yet? No. At least he called out Jussie Smollett for lying. No, this is actually really funny. Kimmel, Colbert, and Fallon, our top late night hosts, ratings plummet for 4 months straight among key youth demographic. Gee, I wonder why. By the way, Greg Gutfeld has a late night show on Fox now. He's probably pulling some viewers from them because he's actually funny. And the reason he's funnier is because these guys, they're not comedians anymore, and they're using their key demographic, which is 18 to 49. That is your demographic that you want. That's the key, that's the top demographic. That's the age you want to watch your show, and that's the age now that is not watching their show. Gee, I wonder why. Because you are no longer a comedian. As a late night host or as a comedian, you're supposed to kind of call out the man, you know, the government. They are now the strong arm of the government. They are now full-on propagandists pushing just creepy, eerily. I don't know if you remember Colbert's Vax dance or Jimmy Fallon's new music video about getting your booster. It's just icky. No one wants to watch that. And they're not funny anymore. They're too political. And then they do another thing. Not only are they hyper political and just not funny, if you disagree with them, they offend you. What did, oh yeah. Jimmy Kimmel has used his show to prop up Fauci, recently smearing the government officials' critics as scumbags and screwballs. So you're just pissing off half the country right there. Bye-bye ratings. And the thing about Hollywood, yeah, they're propagandists, yeah, they're super political, but at the end of the day, they do care about their bottom line. You have to have a bottom line. You have to make money in order to keep a show going. And when you just pissed off half your audience, bye-bye ratings. All right, you guys, I think that's everything for today. Watching roadkill bloat in the sun is funnier than late night comedy for sure. I think Hollywood, I'm starting to think Hollywood is subsidized by the DNC for sure. And nobody wants to watch that. I think even if you're on, I mean, it's so cringy. Gutfeld is sort of half and half for me. Yeah, but he is still a lot better than those guys, for sure. Nice to see you live. Nice to see you too. All right, you guys, I think I'm going to get off here. Sarah, Titulus Bands. Let's go, Brandon, from personalized golf balls. That's sad. So maybe someone should just do their own line of golf balls and have Let's Go Brandon golf balls. Independent creators. After Letterman and Stewart retired, late night shows are just going downhill for sure. All right, see you later, everyone. I hope you have a really nice Friday. Gutfeld just being himself will pull in ratings. Yeah, I mean, you know, you like him or hate him, but I think the thing about Gutfeld that he has over those guys, well, one, I think he's funnier, which isn't saying much for those guys, but two, he's just himself and he's genuine. Fallon, Kimmel, and Colbert, they're not genuine. And you know what's sad? I used to really love Colbert. He used to have his first show, he used to sort of play this this caricature of a Republican, and it was actually really funny. He had a book. I bought his book where he would make jokes about how he doesn't believe climate change is a bad thing, because he was like, you know, do we really need alligators and crocodiles? And he was like, is it really a bad thing if Greenland is actually green? And I don't know. I thought he was funny. But he has just really changed, and it doesn't come across as genuine, and it comes across as forced, and you could tell it's just you can see it. It's very easy to see. So at least Gutfeld is just himself and genuine. Back when he was a pretend Republican, yeah, but at least he was funny, and the reason it was funny is because he wasn't doing it with a contempt. He didn't have contempt for Republicans while he was doing it, and that's why it was funny. Oh, thank you, Kent. Colbert used to have Jon Stewart's writing staff. Oh, maybe that's why. It was funny, I thought. He used to say that we should have, like, old men as border security because they're really good at keeping people off their lawns. I thought it was funny. Anyway, I will see you all later. I hope you have a really good Friday and a really good weekend, and I'll see ya. Bye.